Leaders' questions. Calling Deputy Charlie McConnell-Logue on behalf of Fianna Fáil.
This morning the Tallaght Hospital Board are meeting to consider the impact of a 300-page HICWA report into safety at the hospital's emergency department. I believe there is a press conference at 12 o'clock even before that report is laid before this House. The Dublin County Coroner's comments last year, following his examination of the case surrounding the death of Mr Thomas Walsh, appalled everyone. Thomas was a 65-year-old man who died after being placed in a hospital corridor due to overcrowding. Shockingly, the coroner asked whether it was safer for patients to stay at home rather than to go to A&E in Tallaght. Since then, no patients were meant to be kept on trolleys in corridors, particularly in Tallaght. Can you confirm, Taoiseach, that this has been the case and that no patients have been kept on trolleys in Tallaght since then? Also, can you outline if the recruitment moratorium is having a bigger impact in Tallaght Hospital than it is in other hospitals? Reports in the media this morning indicate that this report holds consequences for all accident emergencies wards across the country. Can the Taoiseach assure the House that investment will be made to ensure that the recommendations in this report will be implemented to ensure the safety of patients in Tallaght and indeed at other A&E wards across the country? If there is a ban on patients being kept in trolleys, Taoiseach, then A&E departments will automatically require more staff in order to ensure that patients get the type of care they need and go to hospital to get. Even though you took great pride here last Thursday in outlining how there's been a reduction in the amount of trolleys in A&E departments so far this year, there are still, Taoiseach, 26,000 patients who have been treated on trolleys so far this year at our A&E wards up and down the country. There has in fact indeed been an increase in the number of patients kept on trolleys at Beaumont Hospital, one of our largest hospitals in the country. Do you intend for HICWA to make a visit there?
Thank you.
So, Taoiseach, can you ensure the House that the public watching in that the government have a plan to ensure that our accident and emergency wards across the country are made safer for patients and that patients will no longer have to be waiting on trolleys whenever they go there to get the type of care they need in a time of real need? Thank you.
Ceann Comhairle, the HICWA published their report today of the investigation into the quality, safety and governance of the care provided by Tallaght Hospital for patients who require acute admissions. The investigation followed the death of a patient, Mr Thomas Walsh from Kilnamanagh, Tallaght, who died while in a corridor awaiting a bed at the hospital in March 2011. Firstly, I want to offer my deepest sympathy to the families involved. I know that the loved ones involved in this case will find today and the publication of the report traumatic. Patients in all of our acute hospitals need the assurance that this matter is being dealt with in an effective way and that lessons have been learned and that the quality assurance systems are being put in place across the hospital system. At the heart of this investigation are very serious matters about patient safety, about how hospital services should be managed and provided, and about how we ensure that our acute hospital system, including Tallaght, are safely and properly managed. Many changes have already happened in Tallaght Hospital. The practice of leaving patients waiting on trolleys for admission in a corridor adjacent to the emergency department was clinically unsafe and completely unacceptable, and this has been stopped. HICWA wrote to the Minister for Health last November because of its concerns about the deficits in governance and management at the hospital. As a result, a new interim board, chaired by Sir Keith Pearson, was appointed last December. A new CEO is in place, who is building a new management team, including clinical leadership. When the report is published, the Minister for Health will be studying it with great interest. He is determined that its recommendations will be implemented as a matter of urgency. Many changes, as I've said, are already underway in Tallaght Hospital, and the report, I understand, acknowledges this. The staff of the hospital have a hugely important role in responding to the challenges ahead and in restoring and nurturing this hospital to achieve its potential. I would ask the local community indeed also to support the staff and the hospital as it faces the challenges ahead.
Thank you. Taoiseach. Deputy McConnell-Logue.
Thank you. Taoiseach, it is not wonder that there are pressure in our A&E wards across the country when we have a situation whereby last year up to 66,000 people left private insurance policies across the country, and also where we have a situation whereby up to 2,000 hospital beds remain closed across the country. However, this report, which is being published today, seems to outline and have implications for every other A&E across the country. And what I want an assurance from you here this morning, Taoiseach, is that the resources and the staff will be put in place as necessary to ensure that those who travel to our A&Es in their time of greatest need actually get the care they require there. For a coroner to ask if it is safer for someone to stay at home than it is to travel to an A&E is simply not acceptable. For a coroner to wonder aloud if this is a dangerous place is simply not acceptable.
Thank you.
So, Taoiseach, what we need from you is a commitment to ensure that A&Es throughout the country are effectively staffed and that beds are available so that people no longer have to stay in trolleys. It's simply not acceptable in this day and age that would be the scenario facing people who have to travel to hospital today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, in relation to Tallaght, changes have already been made. The practice of people being on trolleys in a corridor near the emergency department, that practice has been ended. Secondly, since this occurred last year, there have been big changes in relation to Tallaght Hospital. The board has been replaced. There's a new chairperson. There's a new CEO. There's a new regime in Tallaght Hospital. So there's been very big changes made in Tallaght Hospital itself. Secondly, with regard to the wider issue of trolleys, it is of course the case that when people do present to a hospital and they need to get treatment, they should be able to get a bed. I mean, that is the objective. We've had a pattern in this country of people being kept on trolleys far too long than they should be. And what the government has been doing, and the Minister for Health has been doing, through the Special Delivery Unit, has been driving down those number of people on trolleys. There has been a reduction in the number of people who are on trolleys across the country. It's a reduction of 17%. In the Greater Dublin area, it's a reduction of 23%. There is a system in place whereby the numbers of people who are on trolleys are assessed every day. The number of people on trolleys are submitted by hospitals three times. No, there are not 20. There are not 26,000. There are not. No. Don't be using figures. Don't be using figures that are false. The numbers of people. The numbers of people. The numbers of people.
In case you didn't hear me, I said, would you allow the Taoiseach to reply,
the number
please?
Of people.
Thank you.
The numbers of people on trolleys are being reduced. There is a count that is done every day, three times every day. The numbers of trolleys, people on trolleys, are submitted to the SDU. The number today, for example, is 275, and that compares with 368 on this day last year.
Thank you. Deputy Pearse Doherty on behalf of Sinn Féin.
Taoiseach, yesterday the Minister for Finance made headlines, as he's adept at doing with his sound bites. He told us that the economy was in a better position today than it was this time last year, and he told us that the only effect of a Greek departure from the euro would be that we'd have less feta cheese in our shopping baskets. However, many people listening to Michael Noonan yesterday wouldn't recognise the economy that he was talking about, because life in the real economy for the 440,000 people on the live register has got harder, or the 1,500 people who are immigrating from this country every week, or the 91 people who are falling into mortgage distress every single day. Taoiseach, 5 austerity budgets has seen the living standards of the vast majority of people drop dramatically, and you are set to continue on this path. And the truth is that the austerity treaty will make life harder for these people as a result of harsher levels of austerity post-2015. So, Taoiseach, can I ask you, do you accept the CSO's figures that show that GDP declined in the last 2 quarters of 2011? Do you accept, Taoiseach, that on the basis of these figures, that this economy is now officially back in recession? Taoiseach, do you accept that your policies are failing and leading to immigration, to unemployment and mortgage distress? And finally, Taoiseach, can I ask you, do you share Minister Noonan's contention that the only impact of a Greek departure from the euro would be less feta cheese for the Irish?
Thank you. Taoiseach.
I accept that this country is in a very difficult economic situation, and it has been for some time. And everybody who has lost a job, or whose business has gone bad, or who are having difficulty paying their mortgage, or difficulty making ends meet, know that. And there is only one thing that we have to do, and that is to work our way out of it. And in order to work our way out of it, we have to, first of all, get our economy to grow again, and it is growing. There was growth in 2011, and there is projected growth for this year and for next year. First time in 4 years. We have to get people to invest in this economy, and we're succeeding in doing that. Since the beginning of this year, we have seen jobs announcements, about 1,000 jobs per month announced by investors who have decided that this is a good place in which to invest, and we're seeing it again today. We saw rehab yesterday, for example, significant number of jobs announcements, more jobs announcements in Galway today. And what we have to do, Deputy, is we have to ensure that those investors and people who are thinking of investing in this country, that they maintain confidence in this country. And in order to maintain confidence, they have to be sure that we have a stable currency, that our relationship to the euro is safe, and that is why this government is asking people to vote yes to the Stability Treaty on the 31st of May. Your fairy tale economics is what will drive us in the direction of Greece, and we have seen what is happening there, and there are consequences. We are seeing 30,000 people in the public sector about to lose their jobs. We are seeing reduction in pensions and reduction in pensions and pay of the order of 20%. The route that we have to go here is a route towards recovery. And when you talk about austerity, let's be clear about this. Nobody wants austerity. What we want to do is we want to work our way out of it. The problem is that your fairy tale economics will result in far more austerity for the people of this country than by taking the sensible decision to support the Stability Treaty, build growth measures on it, like the growth measures that Minister Howland has been talking about this morning, and the measures that I hope will emerge from the European Summit on the 23rd of May.
Thank you.
Your son,
Please allow the person to ask the question, and above all, please allow the person to reply to the question. So, Deputy Doherty, I'm going to protect your right to ask a supplementary for 1 minute, and I protect the Taoiseach's right to answer it. So, can we get on with it?
A reply would be helpful, and the Taoiseach doesn't want to acknowledge that the CSO has said that we're officially back in recession. But Taoiseach, what's happening in Greece is symptomatic of the failures of the policy of austerity. The same type of policies of austerity that you are pursuing in this country with gusto. Taoiseach, people know from their own experience, from their own real-life experience, that austerity isn't working. You know, the trade unions know, your own supporters know that austerity hasn't worked and won't work. Taoiseach, what we in Sinn Féin have argued consistently is that we need investment, we need stimulus, we need to get people back to work. We said it would be funded. Funded from the National Pension Reserve Fund, funded by the European Investment Bank. Funded by the private pension industry. Taoiseach, what you want to do is sell off profitable state assets at some time in the distant future. But what you also want to do is cut €7.2 billion from the capital budget over the lifetime of this government. So people need investment in jobs now. Now they need investment. So, Taoiseach, can you tell this House, is this now Labour's philosophy? Taoiseach, people in this country need investment now. So would you agree with me that Minister Noonan would be better talking about the real economy instead of the sound bites and telling people that we've turned a corner when the reality is that we haven't?
Thank you. Taoiseach. Would you let the Taoiseach reply, please? Deputy O'Riordan, your leader is about to reply. If you give him a chance. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. What is happening in Greece is what would happen if this country were to follow the fairy tale economics of Sinn Féin. And there's no point, Deputy Doherty, in talking about what might happen after 2015. The problem that you would land us in and that Sinn Féin would land us in is at the end of next year, when we would arrive at a point where your leader says, tell the IMF to go home and take their money with them so we don't get money from the IMF. He says default on our debt so you won't get back into the markets. You say 1 week you want to veto the ESM and the next week you want to borrow money from it. Your problem, the problem that Sinn Féin, the problem.
You don't like the answer. Please proceed without help or interruption. Thank you. Thank you.
The answer to this country's economic difficulties is that we get investment and we create jobs. That's the essential answer. There are a number of ways. Now look, we're not going to solve this problem. Sinn Féin, you're not going to solve the problem.
We can agree, Taoiseach. On that, we will agree.
This country has a serious problem, and it has to be resolved. And it's not going to be resolved by shouting at it or by heckling. It is going to be resolved. It is going to be resolved by serious hard work on the part of government. Getting investors to come in here, they have to have confidence in the country, which is why we have to pass the Stability Treaty, doing the kind of things that Deputy Minister Howlin has been talking about, where we establish measures to stimulate our own economy, where we harness money that is in the National Pension Reserve Fund, the use of European Investment Bank money, the approach that the government is taking towards talking to the private pension industry about investing in this country, adding to the €17 billion that has already been committed by government to a public capital programme, adding to it, and building the jobs and the investment that is necessary. The problem that you have and that Sinn Féin have is that you keep changing your mind, and you keep changing your mind to suit whatever will suit Sinn Féin's political agenda. What this country, what this country needs to do is to get people back at work, to get the economy moving again. That's what's in the country's interest, and this is a moment when we, as all of us here in this House, should be putting the country's interest first, rather than by seeking to take party political advantage of the difficulties that people have and the crisis that the country is in.
Deputy Shane Ross, please, on behalf of the technical group. Thank you.
Thank you, Cancrolla. In response to what the Taoiseach said to Deputy Doherty, I'd like to make what I think is a constructive suggestion, and to test the Taoiseach's response to it. As the House will know, the Referendum Commission on Tuesday ruled that there could be no delay under the 1994 Referendum Act in the treaty, the fiscal treaty to which you have pledged yourself and your party. That is absolutely true, and it is legally true. In response to that, Taoiseach, I have a very short bill to propose to the House today, proposing.
Please.
Proposing that you.
Sorry, would you please allow the Deputy to speak? Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
And I
have a very
remind the
short
Deputy
bill
that there's a procedure to go through in relation to this bill, which is on the order paper here. Thank you.
proposing that the Taoiseach and the government may, not to compel you, but may, if it so thinks, and if it is fit, may change that date if events overtake what happens to the treaty. Now, Taoiseach,
Sorry, would you ever stay quiet? Thank you.
I would be
you
grateful.
You can't stay quiet, leave the chamber. Thank you.
Please
proceed. Will you too stay quiet? Thank you. Now, would you please proceed without interruption?
Such a bill would take a day or 2 days to get through this House and the Shannon. It would give you the facility, if you wished, and if events changed, to actually postpone that treaty to a date which is relevant. Because, and let me put you one good reason why this should happen, and that is, in an opinion poll today, where you came out on top, there are a large number, 35% of people, who are either confused or don't know what the situation is, and who wish,
Deputy, we're over time. Thank you.
And who'd wish it to be clarified.
Thank you.
It would be very important.
Could I have your question, please? Thank you.
It is important, Taoiseach, that the clarity which we need is given to the people by delaying events if it's necessary. And the reason why people don't know the answer, the reason why people don't know, is because they're unclear, not about the treaty itself, because the treaty itself,
Thank you, Deputy. You're way over time. Would you please resume your seat?
Okay,
Thank you.
as everybody in this House knows,
Thank you,
it's
Deputy.
about simply.
Thank you. Will you resume your seat? Thank you. I will ask you again to resume your seat.
Thank you. Okay.
Taoiseach, sorry. There's a procedure that has gone through here. I have before me a request officially on the order paper for today regarding the moving of a bill, which will be dealt with later. And it's up to the House to decide the procedure, whether the government accept or reject. So would you please be conscious of that in replying to the debate? Thank you.
First,
Thank you.
Are you joking or hunting?
Sorry, would you please, thanks very much. Deputy, would you take a pill there for a moment, please? Stop getting excited.
I couldn't even hear Deputy Ross, and you accused me there.
I know, but you just get
I didn't know you were a medical doctor.
No, I'm just advising you to stay quiet. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm not insulting you at all. You haven't lost your sense of humour, I presume, have you? No. Good. Thank you.
Corla, the Referendum Commission have already made it clear that it is not possible to postpone the referendum. Secondly, it wouldn't be a good idea anyway to postpone it, because what this country needs is certainty, not indecision. We have a decision, all of us as individual citizens, on the 31st of May, and we have an opportunity, I believe, as people, to make a very strong statement that as a country that we are certain about the euro, that we want to have stability in the euro, that we want to have confidence for investors in this country, and that there's no question about Ireland's relationship with the euro, and that as a country that we want to have access to emergency funding if we were ever to need it. And there needs to be certainty brought to that question, and that certainty will be brought when the people make a decision on the 31st of May. I do not intend to accept Deputy Ross's bill. I think it is a rather extreme measure that he's introducing here to avoid a situation where he can't make up his mind as to where he stands on the treaty. I was in Deputy Ross's constituency. I was in Deputy Ross's constituency on Saturday, and I met many voters there who can't understand why Deputy Ross is not supporting the government and supporting this treaty, which is the right and the sensible thing to do. I do acknowledge that there are many people who have yet to make a decision as to how they will vote in the treaty. That is why the government has made more information available for this treaty than has been made for previous treaties. There is an information campaign which is underway, which is continuing, informing people about the contents of the treaty, and between now and voting day, certainly I will, and I know that my colleagues in government and the two parties in government, supported by others, will be seeking a yes vote from every individual citizen in this country, because it is the right thing to do in the country's national interest.
Thank you. Deputy Ross, 1 minute.
Thank you, and welcome to the constituency, Deputy Gilmore. I was in Paris actually last week, and they were wondering. I met a lot of people there, and they were wondering why you had to go over to Paris to do an interview for Morning Ireland. But that's a different issue, and to find that the man you went over to see, Monsieur Hollande, had fled to Tulle when he heard you were coming. Because, but perhaps you could answer the question: why will you not just take the facility for yourself, the ability to change this particular referendum date if events overtake it? Because events, as you know, are overtaking it by the day. On the 17th of June, and the Taoiseach will know this, on the 17th of June, it is a key date, and that is 1 month from today. There are elections in France which will affect, whether you like it or not, the austerity treaty as it's called here, or the fiscal treaty as it's called by others. But they will affect it. Also on the 17th of June, there is an election now called in Greece. Those events are earthquake. They are epoch-shaking in terms of Europe, and you're insisting that they will not affect the fiscal treaty at all. Will you not just take this power upon yourselves in order to facilitate a change in events which will make the treaty irrelevant?
Well, first of all, as the Referendum Commission has made clear, it is not possible to postpone the referendum. And secondly, Speak, please. Secondly, it is not a good idea to do so. What this country needs, particularly at a time of uncertainty in Europe, and we're seeing uncertainty in Greece, is we need ourselves, this country, our people, individual citizens, make a clear statement that we want stability and we want certainty. And every individual citizen in this country has the opportunity to make that statement very clear themselves in the privacy of the ballot box on the 31st of May, that we want a stable euro, that we want certainty about our own future in terms of emergency funding, that we want certainty and stability in this country so that investors out there will have the confidence to continue investing in Ireland, to create jobs here and to get our economy to recover. The idea that we should stand back and wait to see what way the wind is blowing What do you think investors are going to do? I attended a meeting yesterday morning organised by the American Chamber of Commerce, 100 senior executives of American companies who are investing here. What kind of report do you think they would send back to their headquarters if I was to say to them, we're postponing the referendum, we're going to wait to see what way the wind is blowing? If we end up in that kind of situation, we're going to wait to see what way the wind is blowing. Investors will do exactly the same thing. We need to have certainty, we need to have stability, so that investment will come to this country. And what has happened in France is something that this government welcomes, because it contributes to the growth agenda and to promoting growth and job creation in Europe, which is very much in harmony with what the government itself is doing here in order to promote growth and stimulus in our domestic economy, so that we can get more people back to work, our economy to grow, and get the economy to recover and make this a better country.
Thank you. That completes Leader's questions for today.